Jason Master, Director of Environmental Health, joins us now. Jason, you're coming to us shortly before Thanksgiving. We've all been talking about COVID, but there are some more illnesses we actually need to worry about, maybe more likely this Thanksgiving holiday season. I was doing some reading, found out the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention actually estimate that 76 million Americans suffer from foodborne illnesses around the Thanksgiving holiday. So fill us in. What do we need to do to make that turkey safe to eat?
Yes, foodborne illness is a huge part of our job that we do on a daily basis in the food service industry. And so one of those things with the holidays, of course, everybody loves to eat. And so one of those things that we really have to, messages we also need to get across is make sure that we're handling and cooking our food products properly, that we're thawing them properly, and that, of course, after we're done eating, that we're holding them and chilling them properly so they don't go bad. So we don't have a bacterial growth that occurs and causes us problems.
So let's start with the very beginning. What is the safest way to defrost a turkey?
Well, the safest way to defrost a turkey is in your refrigerator. One of the kind of common mistakes that's made is that people don't allow enough time for it to thaw in the refrigerator when they move it from the freezer to the refrigerator. And the average turkey, 16 to 20 pounds, may take 4 to 5 days to properly thaw all the way through in the refrigerator. We want to keep it under refrigeration because we want to keep the temperatures below 40 degrees Fahrenheit, which is perfect, and the bird will thaw out slowly. We don't want it to thaw out too quickly.
Yeah, you had mentioned that some people will tend to, there's another way to defrost that turkey if you don't have that kind of time, but talk about that because I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, another method for thawing meats. I mean, it may not work for large birds, but some of the smaller ones can be done under a cool running water. A small stream of cool running water. It doesn't have to be a fast running water. Could be done in the sink or maybe the turkey placed in a tub. Water ran next to the turkey, so it's got some cool water on it, and then that way it can overflow into the sink and drain out. But again, this process still takes quite a bit of time as well. The problem with this is you don't want an area of the turkey or bird exposed to room temperature for very long. So it's kind of like the bird's got to be submerged and then underneath that cool water. So it is not an easy practice to do.
All right. So what about cooking the bird?
Cooking the bird, very important. One of the things that we want to do on our birds, we want to make sure that we get the temperature of the meat up to 165 degrees. That is critical for killing off salmonella bacteria, which is common in poultry. And so we want to make sure that we take care of that salmonella. So it's very important to have not only, we always kind of look for that bird to have a little red pop-up indicator on it, but it's also very important to use a temperature, a good thermometer, and check the temperature of the bird to make sure at the thickest part of the meat that it is up to temperature at 165 degrees.
All right. What about the sides and things that we put out to share?
Oh, sides. It wouldn't be Thanksgiving dinner without some of those great sides that we have. And I'm looking forward to them myself in the next coming week or so. But one of the things that we need to be very careful of when we're preparing side dishes, no matter what that would be cross-contamination. So we have to be conscious when we're dealing with raw products, raw meat products like our turkey, possibly on a cutting board, a knife, spoons, things like that, as well as our own hands. You know, we've been talking about hand washing for months and months and months, and we've in public health, we've been teaching it for years. And one of those things that is the worst thing that can happen is a cross-contamination, where if we're handling that turkey, that raw turkey, and we actually end up getting salmonella bacteria on our hands, and then we go over maybe to preparing the salad or something like that, a ready-to-eat product, then we can cross-contaminate it, and we don't want to do that. So it's very important to wash our hands in between handling different products, as well as washing our cutting boards and our knives and those kinds of things in between uses.
So how long is too long to leave the food out for consumption on Thanksgiving Day? I mean, I imagine after so much time, we need to make sure that we get it back to the fridge.
Well, in our regular, oh, and of course, the best thing is having that food laying around so you've got something to nibble and snack on even beforehand and afterwards. But we really work in public health in kind of the 2 to 4 hour time frame. 4 hours being the absolute max that we ever want a food product to not either be under heat or under refrigeration, and that's an absolute max. So I always kind of go half of that. I think of like 2 hours, and then we need to start either putting things either even on ice baths. So maybe put a larger tray or a larger pan out there with some ice on it and set things in ice if it needs to be chilled, or that turkey that we get it in the refrigerator and we start chilling it down, because once we take it out of the cooking process, it's starting to cool down, and we want to keep it we want to keep it out of that danger zone of that 45 to 145 temperature zone as little as possible. So the whole time we're out there eating it, we're passing the plate down, it's kind of in that danger zone if it's not under heat or if it's not under cooling processes. So it's very important to do that.
Days later, you've still got mounds and mounds of turkey in the fridge. Do you need to reheat it? Can you eat it cold?
Well, I'm probably guilty of eating it cold when I probably shouldn't. I will admit it. I don't always do the right things. But as long as we're eating it and it's below the 45 temperature zone, we should be okay. But if we are going to heat it, we don't want to bring it out and set it at room temperature. We would want to do some kind of a heating or cooking process. A lot of times that's a microwave. And again, we want to check that temperature. We want to make sure that it gets up to that 165 temperature no matter what it is. So that way we know we've killed any bacteria growth that may have occurred while we were in that danger zone.
Interesting. Okay, so if someone's coming down with a foodborne illness, how soon after Thanksgiving dinner, and what are the symptoms?
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing. Usually we look at around 24 to 72 hours is that kind of average for a lot of the bacteriological and viral agents that we deal with that might be transmitted by food, like E. coli, salmonella, the couple of the biggies. Giardia is another one. And the worst thing, just like everything else, is flu-like symptoms. It's usually nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, body aches.
Goodness gracious, with everything else going around, it's hard to tell what you're coming down with. So what do you do if you start exhibiting those symptoms?
Well, one of those things you should call the health department or call your physician and speak with them about it. They may recommend that you call the local health department, and then we can guide people through the steps that might be to help us investigate whether it's actually a foodborne illness or actually whether it might be norovirus. That is often shed. It's a common virus that has those same kind of symptoms, and it's a person-to-person contact virus. So usually this is also the time of year that we just see simple little norovirus start to peek its head out, and we start to see some outbreaks of that. So, and that can be passed from person to person or from an ill person to a healthy person just by passing the plate. So it's a contact thing. Yeah.
Jason, any other parting thoughts, any other suggestions or ideas for folks as we get ready to celebrate Thanksgiving?
Well, I want them to celebrate. I want them to have a good time. I want them to do it safely, as always. And if they are coming together as a family group, hopefully they're a little bit smaller this year, but we want them to do that safely by cooking things properly, cooling things properly, and for everything else, washing their hands.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Jason LeMaster with the Hamilton County Health Department. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Tammy.